There was a time before the Redskins called Washington, D.C. their home. There was even a time before they were Redskins, 75 years ago. The year was 1932. NFL pioneers, including Chicago owner George Papa Bear Halas, encouraged a D.C. businessman named George Preston Marshall to buy a team. Marshall owned a chain of district laundries, then bought the Boston Braves. The franchise was born, but certainly not adored yet. It would be 5 more years before they found a home at the corner of Georgia and W. But first, they had to settle for a move across Boston and a new name.
Marshall moved across town to Fenway Park, and he wanted to have a kinship with the Boston Red Sox, and as well he wanted to maintain the Native American theme that he had with the Braves, so he chose the Redskins.
The team had marginal success until they reached the NFL title game in 1936, losing to the Green Bay Packers. Unhappy with Boston's press coverage and low attendance, Marshall lobbied the league for a move. In 1937, the Boston Redskins became the Washington Redskins. The legacy began. Over the next 15 years, Washington football would be defined by a man known best as Slingin' Sammy Baugh.
He was drafted in the first round in 1936, the number 6 pick overall. He was a superstar at Texas Christian University. He had led the Horned Frogs to bowl wins in 2 major bowls. And George Preston Marshall was hot on his trail.
I'd played baseball ever since I was a little kid. Everybody thought my best sport was baseball.
Marshall, being the entertainment man that he was, he wanted Baugh to dress as a cowboy. But as Baugh has said over the years, he was no cowboy. It was all orchestrated by Marshall as part of like a publicity stunt.
The gunslinging side of Sammy Baugh might have been public relations, but on the field of battle, there was no doubt he had a rifle.
He was kind of sidearm, but you got to remember, he wasn't the T-formation quarterback. He took a direct snap.
He was the first great passer in the NFL, so there was a curiosity about him.
Baugh had a double-barreled weapon, his right arm and his right leg.
I was kidding him about, leading the league punting. And he said, well, I didn't even punt on 4th down. Riley Smith was the punter. He punted on 3rd down.
But Baugh's throwing and punting abilities did not overshadow what number 33 could do on defense.
For his career, he intercepted 31 passes. He wasn't just a passer. He was a great all-around player in the days of single platoon football.
Now there was a superstar to push the franchise from mediocrity to mighty. It did not take long to build a champion. The Skins had a 7-3 record that first season and fought their way to the title game against the Bears in frigid Chicago.
Baugh basically willed his team to win. It was in very poor conditions in Chicago. It was ice cold, the field was slippery. As Baugh has said, if you weren't bloodied at the end of that game, then you were not playing to win.
(1942). The team hosted the Chicago Bears in the World Championship. The Bears jumped in front, but Baugh fired back, tossing a 38-yard touchdown pass to Wilbur Moore. It looked like part of a contemporary highlight reel. They scored again, giving Washington fans their second title and their first at home, 14-6.
When there's Baugh, there's hope.
Week after week, Slingin' Sammy Baugh showed that stardom was a good fit, but never more than on 2 Sundays, an October day in 1943 and a November game in 1947. In these games, Baugh threw for 6 touchdowns twice.
He was possessed with being the best, and that's the way that he played the game. Punting and throwing the football. The way he worked, throwing at tires.
I had me a old tire that I'd hang on the goalpost, but I wouldn't have anybody out there but me.
Redskins and Sammy Baugh were like on the same level. When you talked one, you had to talk about the other. He did it all, and he was spectacular. So he was everyone's hero.
Every time he throws the football, completes a pass, gains a yard, scores a touchdown, Baugh sets a world record.
In 1952, he retired, finally becoming George Preston Marshall's cowboy by trading his helmet for new headgear and settling down on his ranch in Rotan, Texas. The early years of the legacy were so much about Sammy Baugh that some other great players on the team were almost crowded out. Bruising back Cliff Battles, lineman Turk Edwards, Wayne Milner, and others played major roles in the early years. So did the solid, if not showy, Griffith Stadium. On October 1st, 1961, the team officially opened its new home, losing 24-21 to the Giants in D.C. Stadium, later known simply as RFK.